Hey everyone, it's Yas Queen, and welcome to my thoughts on One Piece. To start, I know that this video may be a bit out of place for my channel. Some of you may know me as a COD Zombies YouTuber, and some of you may know me as a Marvel Rivals YouTuber. But since I'm still pretty early in my channel's development, I'm mostly just making videos on things that are important to me, and that includes One Piece. I don't know if I've talked about it in a previous video, but I'm actually a really huge One Piece fan. And about a month ago, I caught up on the anime. So I figured I ought to come on here and share some of my thoughts on the show, my favorite things, and my overall journey of One Piece. So without further ado, let's start with my journey and how I got into it. Oh, and obviously since I will be talking about the entire show, massive spoiler warning. I started watching One Piece, I want to say around 2020. I'm not too sure on my reason for starting actually. I just remember finding it on Netflix one day, knowing full well how long the series was, and just decided to watch. I don't think I really took it too seriously at the time. I probably knew I wasn't gonna actually watch the full thing. And I mean, I was partially right at the time, because I only got past Arlong Park and then I just stopped watching. Not too sure why. My memory is a bit foggy on the whole thing since it was a while ago, but I think I kind of just forgot about it for a bit, I guess. Again, I'm not too sure. It's been a while. My journey then didn't resume until the next year. I want to say it was around October or November of 2021. No, it was October 2021. I picked it back up again. This time, however, I also started to read it as well, because I was in high school at the time and didn't really have the downtime at school to be able to watch One Piece. So that's when I discovered this nice little handy app called Viz Manga. And if you paid a subscription, you could read all of the selected manga by chapter instead of like having to buy the individual volumes. And One Piece was included in that selection. So whenever I had like a few minutes to spare in class, or just like waiting in like some like long ass lunch line, I would just like pull out my phone and read a couple chapters. So I constantly flipped between the manga and the show for most of pre-time skip. I read the beginning of Alabasta, then I watched the rest. I did a good bit of reading and watching with Sky Island. I actually watched all of Water 7, and then I also did a good bit of reading and watching Thriller Bark, and then I watched most of Summit War. But anyway, after I reached time skip is when I stopped reading. I only watched from there. And so I watched all of Fishman, Punk Hazard, and then the beginning of Dressrosa, and then I stopped there. Again, I'm not too sure why. I guess it might be the same reason as last time, where I kind of just stopped. It may have also been burnout. I was binging the show like crazy, but at the same time, I didn't really feel burnt out. But anyway, get this. This time, I stopped watching the show for like 2 years. Yeah, I stopped in around summer of 2022 and didn't fully pick it back up until around November or December of 2024. Now in between that time, I did occasionally watch some episodes, but I didn't fully get into it or actively start watching again like I used to. And in my defense, this was Dressrosa we're talking about here. The saga is infamous for its bad pacing, so you can kind of see why I struggled to get back into it at times. But anyway, I picked it back up recently, and this time I was intent on getting caught up to One Piece, and that's what I did. I started actively watching again, I breezed through all the arcs, and on March 20th, 2025, I caught up on One Piece. This series is fucking amazing. It is my all-time favorite anime, and I am just obsessed with it, and I mean it. I'm thinking about One Piece like 90% of my day. The themes of it are just fantastic. They took everything that makes pirates cool and interesting, and they just amplified it like tenfold. To give some examples, the bounty system, it's really cool and unique, and it gives the viewers a better idea of like how much of a threat or how strong the pirate in question is. It's also really fun to see the main crew's bounties increase throughout the series as more of a direct visual indicator of how much stronger they're getting and how much, of a threat they're becoming to the world government. The designs of some of the pirate ships are really cool as well. Usually when you think of pirate ships, you think just standard black or brown galleon, but with One Piece, they add nicer colors and interesting gimmicks to the ships. like the Thousand Sunny or the Victoria Punk, or especially the Polar Tang, where it's not like really a pirate ship, but it's rather a submarine, which I think is super cool when I first saw it. And then we get to the power system, and it's one of the most interesting systems I've seen in an anime. Devil fruits have so much variety, and we see in the show that even the fruits with the most odd abilities can be used in incredibly strong ways, like, for example, Cracker. You know, being able to fucking spawn in biscuits, that seems so weak on the surface, but he uses it in such an interesting and good way to where he makes, like, these incredibly strong biscuit soldiers, and so I thought that was really cool. And then you have Hockey, and while at first it seems pretty limited in the sense that there are only 3 types, you start watching more and more, and you see just how crazy strong Hockey is when trained to its fullest potential, especially with characters like Roger and Shanks and Katakuri. And then we get to one of my favorite things about One Piece, the world. The world is just so grand and incredible. Like, some of the islands the main crew has gone to in the show are just very interesting. You could tell they have a lot of detail and thought put into them. Wano, for instance, was absolutely beautiful in the beginning when we were first getting introduced to the land. We saw the colorful houses and the cherry blossom petals falling in the distance, all the people in unique kimonos walking by, the Wano theme song playing, and you really just feel so into it and immersed and have such a wow feeling. As for the story, it's just so very deep and complex, and it gets so much more exciting the deeper you get into it. Like, one of the final episodes of Egghead Part 1, when we saw the scene with Emu and Cobra and the 5 Elders, I was just so locked in. Like, my eyes were glued to the screen. I was, my brain was just fixated on that. Because Oda himself said that the most important part of One Piece is the past. So whenever we get to see a glimpse of the past or get some lore regarding it, it's just so interesting and exciting. And it's crazy to think how far the story has come to. At first, it's like pretty simple. Find the late Pirate King's treasure, and become the Pirate King, But now, we're finding out all these secrets about the world government and the celestial dragons and the ancient weapons and the Void Century, and it's just such a grand story, and I have no doubt it's going to be one of the craziest moments when it finally comes to a climax and we learn about all these things. But that's really all I have to say, though, when it comes to my thoughts. I thought this was a phenomenal show, and I really can't wait to see how things unfold, and I can't wait for more episodes to come out. Whew, boy, here we go. Trust me, this part isn't fun for me either, but you know what they say. If you truly love something, you won't be afraid to criticize it. So let's talk about some of my more negative opinions on the series. Starting with, I don't like the fact that we've kind of just lost the plot of everyone has their own dreams they want to pursue. During pre-time skip and for most of the beginning of One Piece, they put emphasis on the Straw Hats working more as individuals than a team. They're a crew of people who all have their own personal goals that they wish to achieve while on the crew or just by the end of the journey. But I feel like post-time skip just feels like they've started to lose that. We really haven't seen much effort from some of the Straw Hats of them actively pursuing their goals. Luffy is an exception because his goal is more passive. He wants to become Pirate King, and we know that that's probably going to be achieved by the end of the series. Zoro's also an exception. His goal is to become the world's greatest swordsman. And one of the most anticipated fights in One Piece is his rematch with Mihawk to earn that title, so we know that that's probably going to happen by the end of the series too. But then we get to like the next 4 Straw Hats: Nami, Usopp, Sanji, and Chopper. Nami wants to draw a map of the world, yet we've seen little to no progress on this. Even just small details like her drawing maps in the background of a scene, or showing off the map she's drawn would suffice, but we just haven't got that at all, to the point where I've kind of just forgotten that that's her dream. Then don't even get me started on Usopp's brave warrior of the sea shit. Like, the time skip happens, he gets absolutely shredded, and it straight up tells Nami when he returns to Sabaody, "I'm no longer a part of the weakling trio with you and Chopper." And then he proceeds to be just as weak and as much of a coward as he was pre-time skip. And to top it all off, he's now just the weakest of the weakling trio. He did absolutely nothing in Wano. Meanwhile, Nami stood up to Ulti and even defeated her. I mean, to be fair, Ulti was kind of on 1 HP from Big Mom, but still defeated a member of the Tobiropo. And Chopper fought Queen. I mean, he didn't really do any damage, but the fact that he was able to go toe-to-toe with Kaido's second commander for 30 minutes shows incredible strength and bravery. I know that we're on Elbaf in the manga, and that's supposed to be Usopp's arc, where he hopefully either powers up or just gets a little braver, but even if he does, I feel like that just doesn't forgive the fact that it took until damn near the end of the series for him to do it. And I know all this is making me sound like an Usopp hater, but I'm not. Trust me, I love all the Straw Hats like they're my own children, but it's just so frustrating when it feels like they're allergic to letting Usopp succeed or develop more. Anyway, I got a little sidetracked. Back to my original topic. Sanji. His dream is to find the All Blue. Right? That is his dream, right? Because I don't think I've heard Sanji say the words All Blue since Baratie. Or maybe he briefly mentioned it in Whole Cake. I'm not too sure. Point is, he doesn't mention enough to feel like it's his life dream. I feel like Fishman Island would have been the perfect arc for him because it's Fishman Island. It's literally located in the sea. He could have asked around and gotten information or clues regarding the All Blue or where it's located, but instead he just swooned over mermaids for like half the arc and then suffered like one of the biggest ore losses in all of anime. Moving on to Chopper, and I feel like he's the better example of all these guys, but he still needs some work. Chopper wants to be able to cure all diseases and in a nutshell become the greatest doctor. And fairly recently, we've seen him pursue that more, with healing the poison minks on Zou, as well as helping to cure the Ice Oni virus on Onigashima. But it's like I said with Usopp, where I feel like it took them so long to get started on that. It's stuff like this that makes me feel like the lack of commitment is just why the rest of the Straw Hat dreams are so passive. Frankie wants to see a ship sail the world, but we know that's going to happen by the end of the series. I mean, shit, it's basically happening now. And Brook wants to reunite with Laboon, which is going to happen by the end of the series. And then you have Jinbei, and he just doesn't even have a dream. Like, we don't even know really what Jinbei wants to achieve in life. It's just a little disappointing that we're really not seeing as much of these characters pursuing their own stuff like what it seemed like it was gonna be in the beginning. Now, my next negative doesn't really have much to do with the show, but rather the community. Never in my 12 years of watching anime have I encountered a community that is this fucking terrible with spoilers. Y'all really just do not give a fuck about spoiling anyone, huh? Like, for an anime with such a grand story and so many plot twists and major events, it is really just quite upsetting that the community is just really bad with casually discussing the craziest of spoilers without any warning or consideration for others. Like, the amount of times where I've just had people share manga panels of some stuff that happens later in Egghead appear on my Twitter feed without any sort of warning or tag is just downright stupid, bro. Like, there's literally a feature on Twitter where you can just blur your image and then the user has to press a button to unblur it in order to see the image, yet no one fucking uses it. And I know some people are gonna be like, well then just stay away from the community then. No, like, I shouldn't have to completely isolate myself from the community just to not get spoiled and enjoy the show. I like being a part of the community and seeing memes and fan art and people's reactions to stuff. It's fun. What's not fun, though, is some dude just posting a manga panel of Shanks fucking dying or something with no spoiler tags or warnings. Like, some things are an exception, like Reddit, r/One Piece. It's literally a place made for talking about One Piece, so obviously if you go there without being caught up, you're signing yourself up to be spoiled, basically. But you guys have to understand how much being spoiled can ruin the experience for some people. Everyone always talks about how Ace's death was like the saddest, most gut-wrenching episode in all of One Piece, but I didn't feel that because y'all just casually talk about that motherfucker's death like it's no big deal. Like, bro, even non-One Piece fans know that Ace dies, bro. That's just common knowledge at this point. Meanwhile, the stuff I didn't get spoiled on, like Kanjuro's betrayal, the Raizo is safe scene, Pedro's death, those scenes had my jaw on the floor, and I thank God I wasn't spoiled on those scenes. Look, my overall point is just please think before you carelessly spoil stuff on the internet. Like I said, it makes the experience so much better when everything takes you by surprise. Look, my overall point is just please think before you carelessly spoil stuff on the internet. Like I said, it just makes the experience so much better when everything takes you by surprise. That's about all I really have to say, though, when it comes to negatives. I mean, I still have, like, some nitpick things here and there, but, like, not really stuff big enough to talk in depth about. So, on to the next topic. Now, even though One Piece may be nearing its end, there is still plenty we have yet to see and learn, and so naturally, a lot of different One Piece fans are highly anticipating different things. So, in this next little segment here, I'm going to be discussing some of the things that I personally am highly anticipating, and just looking forward to later on in the series. Now, really, I'm looking forward to everything, but since I'm boiling this down to just a few things, I will start with the Final War. Off the rip, I already know this is going to be a crazy arc, because Oda said that the Final War will make Summit War look like a small arc. That's just insane to me. Like, Summit War was, like, already crazy, and so to think that the creator himself said that this is going to make that look like a small arc is, like, you can already anticipate how off the rails this final war is gonna be. Like Summit War, like yeah, that was like, you know, that had one emperor and the whole navy. But this war, I feel like it's gonna have all 4 emperors, the Revolutionary Army, the navy. It's gonna be like insane. And I even do have like a little theory of my own that at the war, the Navy is going to go through like a little civil war. I honestly think that Sword and the members of the Navy are going to clash. Because, I mean, adding a 4th party would kind of balance it out. And it would even make sense, too, because Sword, you know, they don't really necessarily have the same ideals as the Navy. The Navy wants to protect the Celestial Dragons. The members of Sword more care about the people, like what they actually are supposed to be protecting. So I think they're probably gonna like disagree, like come to a disagreement, and they're gonna like clash at that war. I really think that. But I am also really excited to see more Shanks in action at that war. He is one of my favorite characters, and finally, after so long, getting to see him like really fight it would make me so happy. And it's also like kind of intriguing to me to think who Shanks would fight too, because I mean he's got connections to every party involved. You know, with Blackbeard is the one that gave him that scar, and so, you know, they kind of have their own beef. He's got like kind of like a rivalry thing going on with Buggy, or I guess rather Buggy has a rivalry thing going on with Shanks. And then obviously he's friends or slash like rivals with Luffy. But then he's also connected to, you know, the world government, seeing as he may be a part of the Figarland family. I don't know how to pronounce it. Figarland, I don't know. But yeah, no. So it is highly anticipated that Shanks is probably going to fight Luffy. I think he could probably scrap with anyone, realistically. It really is just up in the air who Shanks can fight at this war. But moving on from that, another thing I'm really interested in is Emu. And I don't just mean their identity, I mean everything. Like, sure, I'm curious about their identity, but like also their powers too. Like, we've seen Emu transform into this weird ass thing back in that one Egghead episode. So I'm curious if like what they ate was like a Zoan fruit or something else entirely. We also see them use like a weird arrow thing to like pierce Sabo, who is a Logia user by the way, so they for sure know hockey. Then you have that incident regarding the Kingdom of Lelucia. And while I have seen online that people have been like speculating it's the other ancient weapon, Uranus, I do wonder if maybe Emu has something to do with controlling it, or maybe it fucking wasn't an ancient weapon. Maybe it was just Emu straight up summoning giant laser beams out of the sky. I'm also really concerned as to how Emu's gonna look, because let's be honest here, their build is just weird. Like, I'm worried that whenever we finally get to see their identity and the silhouette comes off, they're just not gonna look nearly as intimidating because of their goofy ass build. Like, bro, what's with that, like, that tall-ass, skinny-ass crown? Like, it just looks so goofy. But, I mean, I think they still have the potential to look cool, though. I'm just super interested to learn literally anything more about Emu. My last thing I'm probably the most interested in, and this is probably something that's gonna happen very soon, I'm sure, but it's just knowing and seeing more of Kizaru. As of the recording of this video, we're on One Piece episode 1125. Yeah, 1125. So the fight with Kizaru has just kicked off. It's just when I first saw Kizaru, I honestly wasn't that interested in him. He was probably my least favorite admiral just because I just didn't care for him much. But after seeing him in Egghead, it definitely sparked some of an interest in him for me. Him showing off those powers in Egghead and the absolutely gorgeous animation that came with it were so cool, and I really look forward to seeing more of it in the fight with Luffy. I'm also interested to see like the more personal side of him too. We also got to see like a little bit of it when he was fighting Setsumaro with the flashbacks and all, but like at the same time, he still like had like this cocky attitude about him, which makes me wonder, like, is he secretly like being crushed by having to fight his best friend, or like is his false sense of justice like clouding his vision so much that he just has no problem beating his best friend to preserve that justice. But either way, I definitely look forward to seeing that fight when 1126 drops in a few days. That fucking animation of like Luffy kicking Kizaru, that was insane, and I can't wait to see more of that on the coming fight. But that's about the main things I look forward to in the series. Now we move on to just some theories I have regarding our main crew. I know this bit here may seem a bit random, but I have heard a lot of theories and thoughts on the Straw Hat crew and like what is going to go on with them in terms of like new members. And I just thought this would be like a fun thing to talk about, seeing as like I've kind of also Been thinking occasionally about like new members and other people that can maybe join the Straw Hats. Mostly I've seen like a lot of debate on whether Jinbei was the last of the Straw Hats, or is there going to be like a few more members, or is he going to gain a lot more members and finish off the series with a bigger crew. I personally think it can go anyway with some thought put into it. To start with the bigger crew theory, I think it definitely is possible. In almost every arc, Luffy has met people that probably would have been great crew members. You know, to name a few, you have Vivi from Alabasta, Wiper from Skypiea, Polly from Water 7, Shirahoshi from Fishman, Rebecca and Leo from Dressrosa, and Yamato and Momonosuke from Wano. You know, those are just a few people who would make for pretty good candidates for other Straw Hats. I definitely do think that in preparation for the final war, it's pretty much possible for Luffy to just go back and pick up some of these people and have a crew a lot more similar to Roger's, who I believe had, I want to say like 35, 36, 37 members, if I'm not mistaken. But then that's where the counter argument for the other side comes in. Luffy doesn't really look up to Roger, he looks up to Shanks. And Shanks' crew, including the captain, has 10 senior officers, and that's how many senior officers the Straw Hats currently have. But not only that, but also in the way beginning of the show, when Luffy first set out, like on that like little-ass rowboat, he said he needed at least 10 members. I believe that was like the quote in from the manga panel. And while like the term at least implies that there could be room for more, 10 kind of seems to be kind of like that magic number for him. Me personally though, I like to believe in like the middle though, that Luffy isn't gonna have a big crew, but I don't totally think Jinbei is the last either. I mean, I could be a little biased here because I really like her, but I do think there's a pretty big chance Vivi is gonna rejoin the Straw Hats. And I say rejoin because I didn't know this, but apparently Vivi was an official member of the Straw Hats back in Alabasta, which I guess that makes sense now that I think about it. I mean, she did travel with them from Whiskey Peak all the way to like Little Garden and Drum Kingdom and then Alabasta, so she was with them for quite a while. So yeah, I guess, you know, technically does make her an official member. But anyway, we know now that Vivi has the Will of D, and knowing that the Nefertari family has like a more important background, I think she's for sure going to play a more active and important role in the story. And, you know, what better way to include her in that story than by rejoining the Straw Hats? I also don't think Yamato or even Momonosuke joining is completely off the table. Oden was a very important character in One Piece story, as well as an important character in Roger's crew. He was a part of the Kozuki clan, which, you know, has ties to the poneglyphs and can decipher the poneglyphs, and probably has like a more deeper history in like the actual Void Century. He's also able to decipher poneglyphs, which I, you know, said before. Oden also is incredibly strong. He has tons of strength, being one of the few people who could rival Kaido. And Oden was also able to hear the voice of all things. Now, Yamato and Momonosuke are both closely linked to Oden, with Yamato aspiring to be like him, and he holds the same ideals. And Momonosuke, you know, he's Oden's son, and he possesses many of the traits Oden did, including being able to hear the voice of all things, which we know is going to probably play a huge and very important role in the story. So that's why I really think it's possible for either of them to join the Straw Hats. I also did read somewhere that the Prince of Elbaf, Loki, may even join the crew. I'm not a manga reader, so I can't really speak on that, but it would be really cool for a giant to join the crew. I don't know how he'd fit on the ship. I actually saw like a One Piece like ship size comparison video not that long ago, and the Sunny is actually like one of the smallest ships in the series. Not like the smallest, but like one of the smaller ones. And so I do not know how a giant would fit on there, but again, would be really cool. And then, this is gonna sound kind of crazy, but I also don't think it's completely out of the question for even Katakuri to join the crew. Again, I know it sounds crazy, but hear me out here, hear me out. So, as we know, Big Mom is no longer an emperor. She's no longer a pirate, she's no longer fucking alive. As well as, half of her crew is like, just missing. We have not seen the part of the crew she took with her to Onigashima. We have not seen that part since they fell down, since Marco pushed them off the falls. Big Mom and Perospero were taken down. Big Mom is dead, and Perospero, we don't really know if he's dead or if he was just taken down, but either way, he's gone as well, and he was the firstborn child. But then you had that, you know, that crew on Onigashima that fell off the falls, who Marco pushed off, and I think here's what happened here. I think it's possible that, you know, the first time they got pushed off the falls by King, their ship landed, luckily, on, like correctly, like right side up, and they were able to survive the fall that way. However, I think this time when Marco pushed them off, I think it's entirely possible the ship just crashed upside down and all the children of Big Mom, who are Devil Fruit users by the way, fell into the ocean and drowned. Sounds a little dark, but I think it's entirely possible because we just have not seen them at all since Wano. And then you have Blackbeard raiding Whole Cake Island, and he just took down Cracker and kidnapped Pudding. Either, like, my point is, half of Big Mom's crew is just gone. I don't think it's a recoverable crew. A lot of people say that maybe Katakuri is going to become the new captain and, like, launch an attack on the Blackbeard pirates to try and recover his sister. But, like, I don't know if it can happen. Like, half the crew's gone. So honestly, I think it's not entirely impossible that Katakuri could join up with Straw Hat and they could, you know, assist him in recovering Pudding. But yeah, that's really all my thoughts and theories on the crew and like what's gonna happen in the future. But like, feel free to let me know any like fun theories or characters that you want to see join the main crew in the future down in the comments. You know, you heard mine about Katakuri joining the crew. I know it sounds a little crazy, but again, I think it's possible. So if y'all have any characters like that where like you think it's probably possible that they could join the crew, let me know. That'd be definitely fun to read through. Alright, so now we get on to the fun stuff, and that's discussing some of my favorite things about the show. I'm just going to be talking about some of my favorite characters, favorite openings, my favorite sagas slash arcs, and my favorite fights. So starting out with my top 3 sagas, at my number 3 we got Summit War. This saga was goated from start to finish, and I enjoyed all the arcs that were in Summit War. You had Sabaody, you had Amazon Lily, Impel Down, Marineford, Post-War, it was all great. Sabaody introduced us to so many of the really cool pirates and characters we know now as the Worst Generation. The action was great. It gave us that fight with Kizaru and the Pacifistas, and it also introduced one of my favorite characters, Rayleigh. You also had that iconic scene of Luffy just decking that Celestial Dragon. Amazon Lily also introduced us to another great character, Boa Hancock, and is also when Luffy first awakened to his Conqueror's Haki, and that was really fun to see. Then you got Impel Down, and just wow, dude, I love a good Prison Break arc in anime, or just in any TV shows, really. You had so much action and intensity, and I really love the return of Luffy's old villains, like Crocodile and Buggy and Baroque Works. I feel like they had a lot more potential, and I'm glad they were able to, you know, reawaken that potential and show up later in the series and become more important characters now again. They also had like a really good bit of comedy too, like the bits between Hannibal and Magellan. Like, it's been a while since I watched Summit War, but, like, wasn't, like, Hannibal, like, always after Magellan's job and was, like, kind of jealous of him? It was, like, low-key, like, taking shots at him. It was really funny to watch that. And then Magellan just, like, shitting every 10 minutes. Like, bro, come on. Speaking of which, Magellan, man, he has one of the coolest fruits in the whole series, and he was incredibly strong, too. Like, if I'm remembering correctly, Magellan is the only character in One Piece to just hand Luffy an L, and he just, like, takes it, bro. Or I guess like the only character. I guess there were a couple. But Luffy didn't even come back for the dub or anything. Like he just straight up like lost to Magellan. So that's one of Luffy's like very few L's in the series. But then you have Marineford, and like it was just absolutely insane. Like what I said earlier when I was discussing like the final arc, it was so crazy. It literally kicked off with Whitebeard creating a giant tsunami, and then Aokiji proceeded to respond by freezing the whole thing. Like, brother, if that doesn't let you, like, know that this is gonna be one cool-ass arc, then I don't know what will. But the One Piece fan letter, too, just made me appreciate Marineford 10 times more. Showing how just, like, a regular marine grunt with no special powers or, like, devil fruits or hockey or anything was traumatized by that war. And it really reminds you that, yeah, this was an actual war. Like, hundreds if not thousands of lives were lost that day, and on a battlefield where you have people who have crazy ass abilities while you're just a normal dude with a gun, like, yeah, that would be insane. Like, I remember one of the shots from the fan letter was, I don't know if it was that marine grunt, that same marine grunt, or if it was like a different one, but it was a dude, a marine, on the floor, struggling to get up, but when he looks around, he realizes he's in between Mihawk and Crocodile about to start fighting, bro. Like, hell nah, bro. I'm taking off my uniform and I'm leaving, bro. You cannot pay me to be on that battlefield with some crazy-ass pirates, bro. And then, like, a little more on the niche side, too, but, like, the openings for Summit War were also incredible, too. You had Share the World, Kazuo Sagashite, One Day, Fight Together. Overall, it was an incredible saga, and I'm actually planning on going back and rewatching it because of how fun it was. And just really good to watch. Then, at my number 2, we got Whole Cake Island. Now, this honestly came as a surprise to me. I didn't really think I was gonna like Whole Cake as much as I did, but when I watched it, boy, I was hooked. Sanji's backstory, it absolutely tore me apart, man. I felt so bad for him, and it crushed me, dude. They did a really good job conveying how shitty of people the Vinsmokes were, besides Reiju. Reiju's cool. The arc, though, also made me really appreciate Sanji more as a character, and just like how much life he brings to the crew, and how just good of a character he is, man. All the characters in Whole Cake, too, were just really interesting. All the Big Mom family having, like, sweet-based Devil Fruit abilities, names, and themes about them were super cool, and I loved it a lot. And their crew as just a whole really is interesting to me, and it's kind of cute, you know, to see the chemistry between them, that they're all, like, one big family. They're not really as, happy of a family, you know. One of the mom, none of them have any dads to start with, and then you have the mom who's constantly forcing them into arranged marriages. But you could tell, like, some of the people actually do care a lot for their siblings, like Brule and Katakuri, Pudding. You can tell they care a lot about their siblings, and it's pretty cool to see. The story itself told in the arc was great too. Luffy was it really showed off, like, how great of a captain Luffy was, to really, like, sacrifice almost his life. I mean, he really said he wasn't finna eat unless Sanji came back to him, and it just showed how great of a captain he was. It was such a heartbreaking story too. And one of the things I love about Whole Cake the most is the pacing. I felt like it was perfect in that arc. Perfect. After Dressrosa, man, Whole Cake was just such a breath of fresh air, because it actually felt like things were happening and the story was, like, moving every episode. Meanwhile, you have Dressrosa, where I was watching the episodes, and they were pushing the fucking birdcage for, like, 5 minutes each episode. And, like, nothing was happening. It was just straight up 5 minutes of, like, the gladiators pushing the barricade. Like, please, we don't need to see that for 5 minutes every single episode. The fights were pretty good, too, in that arc. You had Luffy versus Cracker, which was incredibly funny to watch. 11 hours of just Luffy devouring his fucking devil fruit. Luffy versus Katakuri too, which was... I will talk about that whenever we get on some of my favorite fights. Wink, wink. And then, probably one of my favorite parts of Whole Cake, you had my boy Brook coming in clutch with that Poneglyph and fighting Big Mom. He didn't really last very long against Big Mom, sure, but the fact that he was willing to stand up to an Emperor for his crew was, like, so peak. I love Brook. He's one of my favorite Straw Hats. So when I saw that he was just the MVP of Whole Cake, it made me so happy, and I loved it a lot. But yeah, Whole Cake was just amazing through and through. Finally, my favorite saga in all of One Piece. Call me a basic bitch, but it's 100% Wano. Everything in this saga, down to the last minute detail, was perfect. One of my favorite parts about it being the animation and the new art style for Wano. It was so bold, and the colors were so vibrant, and it was so fluid too during action scenes. The animation was just pure eye candy. The characters were all really cool in that arc too. I loved the Akazaya Samurai. All of Kaido's officers were super cool. You know, the headliners, Tobiropo, the lead performers, they were all super cool. And the other citizens of Wano too, like Hyogoro, Yasui, Tsuru, Otama, especially Otama. I really liked Otama as a character because, to be honest, I guess I'm just kind of biased here because my favorite color is purple. And her hair is purple. That paired with her green kimono is just super cool character design. And also her voice acting too was amazing. Like, shout out to Otama's voice actor. It was awesome. She did a really good job. And then you had the action for the saga. It was absolutely breathtaking. You had Worst Generation versus Big Mom and Kaido, Gear 5 Luffy versus Kaido, Zoro versus King, Sanji versus Queen, Dogstorm versus Jack, Lawn Kid versus Big Mom. You had so many just incredible fights. And it was just an incredible watch overall. For a longer arc too, the pacing was very good. I once heard a take that someone said Wano was the worst of One Piece pacing. I highly disagree with that. I highly disagree with that. Just because it's a bigger arc doesn't mean its pacing is bad. Its pacing was good, I felt like. You know, there were things moving every episode. The only part where I felt the pacing got a little slow was Udon. I felt like I felt like we were on Udon for, like, a little too long. But even then, like, it wasn't really that big of a deal. It wasn't anywhere near Dressrosa's pacing. I also really like how they structured Wano too, like, as if it was like a Japanese play. Like, splitting up into acts was such a small yet, like, appreciated feature. You know, they first mentioned Wano during Thriller Bark with Ryuma, and so that tells us that Wano has been cooking in Oda's head for like a really long time, and it just really shows how much detail and love was put into this arc. I definitely would not mind watching it again sometime because of just how much I loved it and how crazy it was. Alright, so now I gotta hit y'all my top 3 favorite fights, and I'm gonna kind of rapid fire these just like a little bit, because truth be told, I don't really have, you know, much like in-depth reasons for why I like the fight. Like, there's only like so much depth you can go into for like an anime fight, especially for me, because like I'm not really like a power scaler or anything. Like, I feel like the ones that make me talk about the fights like so in depth in One Piece are like power scalers, and that's not me. I just watch to have fun. But anyway, starting with my number 3, I've got the Worst Generation versus Kaido and Big Mom. Now, this fight was really cool to watch because you could tell that the Worst Generation just really wasn't pulling their punches with this fight, and just they were going all out. They understood that they were up against some of the most powerful pirates in the world, and they had to put their backs into it. It was just really cool also just like seeing them use like teamwork and comboing off each other's attacks as well, especially since like teamwork is honestly kind of a weird thing to see in One Piece fights. Since the main crew of the series, the Straw Hats, like they mostly just fight as individuals. But yeah, no, I mean the animations and stuff were pretty crazy for this fight. All like seeing like all the Worst Generation, and by the Worst Generation, of course, I just mean Luffy, Kid, Law, Killer, and Zoro. It was really cool like seeing them like use their best moves, like Zoro using that really big slash with Enma, or Killer, like I think he went inside Kaido and like slashed him up from the inside. It was crazy, man. Law using Gamma Knife. Kid using like that big ass like metal thing. I forgot what it's called. I don't really know the names of Kid's moves, but like that little like thing, I guess like the ship with the skull in it. It was really cool. Now on to my second favorite fight, I've got Sanji versus Queen. Both of these two already are some of my favorite characters, and yes, I'm a Sanji fan, bite me. So to see those two clash, I just knew I was gonna love it, and I was not disappointed, man. The fight was just really cool because it wasn't just a clash between the two right hands of the captains. It's also just put more into Sanji's identity crisis too. Queen was always trying to basically say that Sanji wouldn't be anything but a Vinsmoke, and that he should embrace his Germa genetics, and Sanji was putting his all into proving he didn't need to use Germa or his raid suit, or that he was more than the shitty Vinsmokes. And then you had the actual scrap itself, and it was like a mix of like really funny and really cool, like the that one like fucking, I think it was called like Brachiosnakis move, like where he just popped out of his like Brachiosaurus thing as like a snake, and he was like, this is how Brachiosaurus is used to hunt their prey, and it was so funny. And then the final bit of the fight with like the blue fire that Sanji used, and which is kicking the shit out of Queen, it was just so awesome, and I love the fight through and through. Before I go on to number 1 though, I want to give an honorable mention to Luffy versus Lucci in the Egghead rematch. This fight was just great. Like, getting to see two Awakened Devil Fruit users just go at it with the crazy animation too. The context of the fight was also probably one of my favorite parts. They both really just said, fuck our responsibilities, I just want to scrap. Like, Jinbei said, like, Luffy, you can't fight Lucci, we gotta go, man. Like, we can't just be standing here fighting him. And Kaku was like trying to tell Lucci, hey bro, we didn't get permission from the government to fight Luffy, don't do it. They both said, fuck all that, let's just fight. And it is his point. I kind of wish it was longer, because I really wanted to see Lucci show off more of the Awakened Zoan. Because, to be honest, I really don't know what Awakened Zoans do. Like, you know, Paramecia fruits, when they awaken, they usually change the environment along with their ability too, or just like kind of gain an additional ability entirely. But Zoans, like, I really still don't really understand like what Awakened Zoans do. So maybe we'll see in the upcoming Lucci versus, who knows? I think maybe Zoro is who's gonna go up against. I'm not too sure. Either way, I think we're gonna fight Lucci again in Egghead, and so I look forward to seeing that, whoever he fights. And finally, my all-time favorite fight in One Piece, again, call me a basic bitch, but it's Luffy versus Katakuri, man. This was a good-ass fight, dude. It's the way that Luffy was getting his ass beat, but also learning and training his haki to be better during this fight, too. He was recalling all those memories from training with Rayleigh, and watching Katakuri closely to try and mimic his observation haki. The scrap itself was also pretty good, too, and the fact that Katakuri just wanted to have a respectable 1v1, and didn't want anyone interfering was pretty cool and pretty respectable. Made me really love Katakuri as a character. It was also a nice and longer fight, which I may be alone on this, but I like the longer fights. I do definitely think that some fights need to be a bit longer to like understand like how like dramatic or stuff they are. So I do like longer fights, and that's definitely what Luffy versus Katakuri was. But yeah, overall really good fight though, and I often rewatch that because it was just so good. Alright, so now it's favorite character time, and I was gonna do top 10 at first, but I really just, I couldn't do it, man. I had to do 15 because I wanted more people to be included, but don't let the top 15 throw you off either. Like, I love tons of characters in One Piece, but I kind of just had to whittle it down. It's the ones I really like to make the list. Also, I kind of, also same thing as the fights, I'm gonna kind of rapid fire these, since some of these characters I don't really have like in-depth reasons for liking. I kind of just like them for like more simpler reasons, or just because they're straight up cool. But anyway, without further ado, starting with an honorable mention, I have Kuma. At first, Kuma was actually one of my more least favorites, mostly because I was just confused by him. Like, he was playing, he just played like all sides, really. He was like a warlord, apparently he was a king at one time, he's a pirate, he's a revolutionary, so like I was like just confused. But like as we're seeing more of him, in Egghead, I'm really intrigued by him, and I'm honestly really interested to see, like, you know, what his deal is. And so because of that, because of like all that interest, I honestly consider him to be one of my new favorite characters now. Then on my number 15 spot, I have Queen. Now Queen is super funny, obviously. It was always just a joy to see whenever he was on screen. His Brachiosaurus fruit too was also super cool to watch, and he used it in a unique way too, like by like him being a cyborg, and being able to kind of like mod the Brachiosaurus by having like all these machine guns and stuff attached to him and laser beams. Especially since at first, whenever I heard that Queen had a Brachiosaurus fruit, I was kind of confused and was like, how is he gonna make that work? Like, Brachiosauruses are just giants, and they also have long neck, and they're, you know, four-legged too, so they're obviously very hard to like maneuver around and stuff. But he made it work, and he proved why he was such a, you know, powerful adversary. And yeah, he was a pretty cool character. Now, on my number 14 spot, I've got Luffy, our boy, our main character. I mean, how could you not like Luffy, dude? He's just so funny, and he's strong, and he has made me laugh in this show countless times. Like, one of my favorite moments was whenever he accidentally called Kaku Usopp and Egghead. It was so funny. I just love Luffy, and he's just such a great main character. He's one of the funnest main characters I feel like we've had in anime. Now, my number 13 spot, I have Whitebeard. He is so strong, and I really do love, you know, the more stronger characters in the series. His Devil Fruit is so cool and destructive, and also he was just a really good person too. Like, it was really interesting to see that he thought of his crew as like his own family in a way. I also just like his fighting style too, like with that, I forgot like what the weapon he holds is called, but either way, cool weapon, cool Devil Fruit, and also cool ship too. I love his ship, the Moby Dick. It's like fucking massive, dude. Now, on my number 12 spot, I've got Doflamingo, and Doflamingo, he is probably one of my favorite villains in the series. You know, obviously seeing as he made the list, but his Devil Fruit is so cool. He just makes it so much stronger by giving it so many uses. He can make clones out of strings. He can make, or he can heat up his strings. He can slash things with the strings. He can make bird cages with the strings. It's just, like, he really shows us, like, just how experienced he is with his Devil Fruit, and that's honestly something really cool that I find. And his pirate crew, too, was also really cool, and it was, like, kind of, like, arranged more like a mafia family than it was a pirate crew, and so I did appreciate that more. Now, on my number 11, I've got Law. Law is just the epitome of cool, man. He is just always so, he's like always like so chill and laid back, but like he's funny too, like, you know, like he's unintentionally funny. Like whenever he was asking Raizo to see, or like asking Raizo to show him the ninja techniques, that got a good laugh out of me, because like I didn't expect that out of Law, you know. His abilities too are sick, like the Opi Opi no Mi is such a really cool Devil Fruit, and the way he uses it too in Wano when it's awakened is really cool. And I really hope to see more of Law in the future, man. I know he got kind of destroyed by Blackbeard on Egghead, or not on Egghead, but in Egghead arc. I know he got destroyed by Blackbeard there, but I really hope he comes back and, like, you know, we get to see more of him, because he really is one of my favorite characters. Now, my number 10, I've got Izo, and I know this is kind of random, because Izo isn't, like, a character that gives the spotlight too much, But I just really like his character. Like, I don't really don't know what to say. Like, this is why I said I was gonna rapid fire these, because like I don't have reasons for liking these characters. I just really do like them. I thought Izo was super, like I said earlier, I really like the Akazaya Samurai. Izo, you know, is one of the Akazaya Samurai. But also a really cool member of Whitebeard's crew, and also me and Izo share a birthday too, so that definitely gave him some goodie points for me. Now at number 9, I've got Blackbeard. He's just super cool and super mysterious. I can't really name too many reasons why I like him, because we haven't seen much of him, that's the thing. But that's why I like him so much, because of like how mysterious he is, and like how little we do know about him, and he is presumed to be very strong off screen. But whenever we do see Blackbeard, I definitely have no doubt it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be a crazy fight between him and Luffy, or whoever he ends up going up against. Now my number 8 spot, I have Rayleigh. I really like characters who are effortlessly strong, and I feel like Rayleigh definitely fits that bill. Like, he's so like chill and laid back, but like he really is a monster when it comes to like hockey and swordsmanship. So I really just like Rayleigh, and also he was the first mate of Roger, who is another one of my favorite characters who's coming up in this list. Now at my number 7 spot, I have Katakuri. Again, like I said earlier when I was discussing my favorite fights, Katakuri, he just gained a lot of my respect from having that 1v1 with Luffy. He also was just super cool, his abilities, how he turned like more of like a weaker fruit. I wouldn't say it was like completely weak, but like definitely on the weaker side. It's like such a monster of a fruit. And also his observation hockey was insane too. And also he's a family man, you know? Like, you gotta respect the family man. He cares for his family, he cares about his siblings. So yeah, he's just a really cool character. Now number 6, I've got Kuzan, bro. He is so, no pun intended, cold with it, bro. Like, his devil fruit is definitely one of my favorites. The ice fruit. I've always loved like ice as an element in different types of anime or different types of TV shows. And you could tell he is just an absolute beast and a monster when it comes to strength, and so I'm so ready to see more of Kuzan going forward in the future. Now with my top 5, number 5, I have Cracker. Now Cracker I like more because of the same reasons as Katakuri, in that he takes this kind of like weak or odd devil fruit and he makes it look like very strong. Like, Cracker definitely had a very strong devil fruit, and he gave Gear 4 Luffy a lot of trouble. But on the surface, you would think like, oh, a fruit where you just spawn biscuits in, like that wouldn't be very useful, but no, he's actually kind of cracked with it. Plus his design is super cool, and yeah, I just really like Cracker. And at number 4, I have Shanks. This guy is just an aura farmer. He's kind of like this in the same boat as Blackbeard, where like we don't know much about him in terms of like fighting style and like how he works as a captain, but because of like all that mystery, it just makes him seem so much cooler. And again, same thing as Rayleigh, he is effortlessly strong. You know, Shanks is like super cool and super chill, and he's really funny, he likes to joke around with people, but like he can really beat some ass, bro. Like, that 4 billion bounty just ain't for show. Like, he is seriously strong, and I really cannot wait to see more of him in the future. And here we go to top 3. At number 3, I have Brook. He's my all-time favorite Straw Hat. He's just so funny. I love his design. He's just a goofy skeleton, and also he's pretty cold with it too. I mean, they don't really show him fighting too much, but like he really can put in that work with the sword and like with the freezing and like the I already cut you thing. He's just really cool, and I love Brook a lot. You know, before I even started watching One Piece, I had played One Piece Pirate Warriors 4 with a family member one time, co-op. I was kind of looking through the characters, and obviously this is before I watched One Piece, like I didn't know anybody, but I saw Brook and I was like, hey, this guy's a funny skeleton. And I saw like his running animations, and I just fell in love with him, and I knew I was gonna like him as soon as I watched the anime, and yeah, I wasn't wrong. I love him a lot. Now my number 2, I have King, and this guy is just incredibly sick. His outfit is super cool, like the all leather suit, and then when he takes off his mask, the man is beautiful. Like that white hair, that dark skin, the face markings, the black wings. The traits of Lunarian are just so cool, and the Lunarian tribe, or I guess race, in general, is like really cool and interesting to me. And I really wish we could have seen more of both King and just the Lunarians in general. Technically, we are seeing more of them with the Seraphim, but, you know, I meant like more like actual Lunarians. His devil fruit too is also really cool to me. The Pteranodon fruit. Again, a fruit that you wouldn't really think would be as strong as it is, but King proves that it is, you know, pretty strong. Pterodactyls or Pteranodons, they have pretty limited movement. I mean, their arms and their wings are like attached. And so it's really, it'd be really hard to, I guess, fight in that form, but, you know, King does the damn job. He does it good. And finally, my number one character, my favorite character in all of One Piece. It is Gol D. Roger. I fell in love with this man during the Odin flashbacks in Wano. He is just, he's so goofy. He's like Luffy, but like different in his own way. He's so funny and effortlessly strong, like what I said with Shanks and Rayleigh. His laugh and his smile is just so contagious. I remember like just genuinely smiling every time Roger would laugh or smile. And it's just, he's such a fun character to watch on screen, and I really wish we could have seen more of him in the Odin flashbacks. I know it was like already a couple episodes long, those flashbacks, but I still wish we could have seen more. I kind of hope we get another Roger flashback later on in the series because of just how much I love him. And finally, we are on to my top 5 openings. This one was honestly kind of tough to make because I pretty much like every opening. There are like a handful of like openings I'm not very fond of, but I wouldn't really go as far as to say they're bad or I just can't bear to listen to them. So if we're gonna do honorable mention, all the openings. All the openings are honorable mentions because again, I love all of them. But starting with my number 5, I have Kaze wo Sagashite, opening 12 from the Summit War Saga. This opening actually kind of grew on me. I didn't like it at first that much, but as I listen to it more and more, it kind of gives me the vibe that it's like, yes, the opening sounds cheery, but to me it doesn't sound like too cheery. Like this doesn't sound like something like what's it called? Wake Up, opening 17. That to me is like super cheery. This one, it more reflects Luffy's heart. At this part in the show, where like he's trying to stay positive and trying to stay like, you know, same old Luffy, but the situation with Ace has him like kind of stressed that like it's kind of hard to grasp it, which is why like, yes, it sounds cheery on the surface, but like when you really think more into it, it just doesn't, you know, it sounds like something's off. It's also just a really catchy song too, and the visuals are super cool. But anyway, on my number 4, I have Over the Top. This was a banger opening to start us off on Wano. They could have started us off on like that traditional Japanese music with like shamisen and stuff, but I think going with jazz, like this upbeat jazz song, was like just such a good decision because it just got me so hyped for every episode of Wano. And also the visuals in this were crazy. Like they really did a good job of showing off this new Wano art style. I still remember my first time watching this opening and just being blown away by it. Now, my number 3, I have Us, opening number 26, the Egghead opening. Literally, what can I say about this? I feel like this is like the most universally liked opening in the entire series, besides We Are. It's so beautiful. The animation is insane. It reminds me a lot of Steven Universe animation, actually. But yeah, the animation for it is insane. It's so vibrant and colorful and pretty, and the song too is just so catchy. Now, my number 2, I have The Peak, opening number 25. And, you know, same case as Kaze wo Sagashite. This opening definitely grew on me a lot. At first, I didn't really like it. But then I got to Wano myself, and I understood like what this opening truly meant. You know, it meant freedom, it meant liberation, it meant like 20 years of suffering in Wano all coming to an end. And also just showing off like how far they come as a crew. It hits me in the feels, man. I just wish the peak would have stayed for longer. The song too is like it definitely grew on me a lot. I didn't like the song at first, but like I listened to it more and more, and now it's like one of my favorite songs of all time. I love it so much. And now my number 1, my favorite One Piece opening is Paint, opening number 24 from Wano. I know we've seen a lot of Wano openings in this top 5, but like I said, Wano's my favorite arc for a damn good reason. But yeah, Paint, it's just such a good song. That's mostly like the thing for me is like the song is really good. The visual is really nice too, but it's just really the song that drove it home. Plus, it is the opening for Onigashima arc, so and that arc is fucking incredible. So yeah. So yeah, those are my top 5 favorite openings. Again, like I said though, I really love all of them, but it's just kind of just like what I prefer over the other. If you guys want to, feel free to let me know your favorite openings down in the comments below. I would love to hear them. But that is pretty much all I really want to talk about in terms of what I thought in the series. Again, I just love One Piece so much, and this series just truly means so much to me, and I don't ever regret getting into this series and watching it. I highly recommend this to all. By the way, I highly doubt there's anyone watching this video that like is watching it because they're not interested in One Piece or are caught up on the series. But if in case anyone is, I highly recommend it to everyone, man. I know everyone is so intimidated to get into One Piece because of the length, but I promise you, when you get into it, you're gonna wish there was more episodes. I really can't I really can't wait to see like just how this anime unfolds and how it goes forward in the future. And I think I mean, I say I can't wait, but like I just know I'm gonna be absolutely crushed when this ends. But even when it does end, let's be honest here, I'm probably just gonna rewatch the entire fucking thing. But anyway, guys, if you guys enjoy videos about One Piece or videos of this nature, then, you know, feel free to let me know by liking and subscribing. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.